In 1992, LEGO Castle released a faction called the Wolfpack, and in today's video, I'm going to be creating an army for that particular faction, so let's get right into it. Now, for those of you who do not know about the Wolfpack, they are a faction that came out, like I said, in 1992 during the classic Castle faction era, when you had the Forestmen, the Lion Knights, the Black Falcons, then later on into the Fright Knights. Now this is a Wolfpack now. The Wolfpack was considered to be a more royal type of faction where they were more living outdoors. They weren't really welcome into public life. They were always portrayed as doing nefarious activities by LEGO. They were always like planning little attacks. They were doing sneak attacks. They had little builds. They weren't nothing too extravagant, and they were kind of made out of typical things that you would find out in the wilderness, nothing too crazy. So with all that lore that we have received from LEGO over those couple of years, I wanted to bring that into what the army would actually look like. And to start off with, I created this scout. Now, for all of my armies, I always create 2 scouts because you're always going to be wanting to send out 2 people to look out at the lands, gather information for what's out there beyond your own reign and the region that you control. And obviously, they always want to be carrying a backpack, like they would be carrying fire starting supplies. They would be carrying some food. Obviously, they're going to be living off the land a bit while they're out there. And for the Wolfpack, obviously, I wanted to give them a shield, but have it not be their logo on the shield, because obviously, if they're out scouting, they don't really need to show their allegiance to anyone. They kind of want to be hidden in a way almost. And obviously, I gave them this more Middle Eastern sword, as well as one of my favorite things about this scout that I was able to design was give them a bandana and use this Knights Kingdom 2 helmet to actually fit over it. So as you can see, it fits just over the bandana to where it makes it nice and tight and doesn't come off at all. It's not wiggly at all. It's just fits nice and perfectly. And obviously, the Wolfpack would want to conceal their identity, doing bandit type things, whatever they're going to be doing while they're out and scouting the known regions. So yeah, I was able to come up with a pretty nice design. Obviously, I used the dual motor legs. I think that looks quite the best with the Wolfpack. Have that a lot on all of the Wolfpack minifigures. But yeah, I think the scouts turned out quite well. Now, one thing I wanted to make sure that I incorporated was that each of the Wolfpack minifigures kind of looked distinguished from either their facial hair, their scars that they might have, as well as just being unique in the way that they wear their clothing. They have different, obviously, shoulder armor, different ways they carry their armor. I wanted to keep them all distinct because I imagine that the Wolfpack, from, like I said, the lore that we've received from LEGO, that they're kind of just either cast outs of the previously classic factions, or they're just people that want to go live off the land, and they're all from different types of backgrounds and religions or whatever it may be. And so they all kind of wear their own unique things. So this is what I came up for: a spearman. He carries his spear on his back, has a bit of armor, and he uses that same helmet that I had on the scouts. I think it looked quite nice, and obviously has some facial hair. So I think this spearman turned out quite well, and I used the Viking legs that were in the Viking village minifigures, and I think it works quite well with the Wolfpack torso. I think it looks like it's kind of tied up with knee barding of some kind. I think it looked quite well for just a typical LEGO spearman. Now, we couldn't have the Wolfpack army without the classic Beastmaster. Now, this came out in Series 27, and it came with a printed Wolfpack shield. It's the only time we've gotten a printed shield. We also just recently got it, actually, now that I think about it, in the Outlaw Forest Den. So we do have a couple more of these, but not a lot. And I really just love the way that that red is. It's almost like a deep red, almost to an orange. Obviously, it matches their signet on their chest and their torso, but even like seeing just that red, I really want to get some red capes, because I think that would work really well with the Wolfpack. A couple of red capes I think would actually look quite awesome. This one obviously has a fabric cape, and he has some facial hair as well. I think it turned out quite nice what they did for this Series 27 Castle minifigure. And obviously I wanted to keep him unchanged. Really like the arm printing and the dual molded legs. Looks very well. Now next for another swordsman type person is a very heavily loaded down female character. Now, I wanted to give her shoulder pads that had the bandana, and it matches the torso and legs obviously very nicely. And it obviously katanas aren't very medieval, but they just look so amazing when you're like looking at the minifigure like this. And you can see the handles and stuff, a bit of the sword coming through over there, and you obviously can't fit a typical sword through these. I wish that you could put a normal medieval sword through there. I would obviously do that before I put the katanas, but the katanas are all that could fit. And then I gave her this nice little gray shield and just added a little 1x smooth circle tile to it just to give it a bit of texture and a bit of the brown to match, to tie it back into the torso itself, and kept using that medieval sword that is on the scouts use. And obviously it's very hard to find a female hairpiece that will fit shoulder armor and obviously the katana holder back here, but this one does it quite well. It's just over the back of the katana holder there, and I think she turned out quite nice for a nice loaded down Wolfpack minifigure. Now here we have a typical bowman with a katana holder on his back just to give him some like extra back carrying capabilities, but also give him a satchel to carry around whatever he might need to use, as well as his typical longbow, recurve bow, whatever you want to call it. Gave him a nice beard piece and orange hair to match the beard. I think he turned out quite well for just a typical Wolfpack bowman. Here's what I would imagine the leader of the bowman regimen would be. More of a different type of longbow than the previous guy we looked at. Much longer, just a different design essentially. And he's got those shoulder pad armors with that brown bandana that works quite well with the torso. And I also gave him a satchel, like a piece that can go on the minifigure's legs, and it looks like they're carrying some supplies or whatever it may be. So I think that looks quite well for the Wolfpack as well. That brown just is carried all throughout the minifigures, and it works very, very nicely. Now next is another bowman. Now this guy uses more of a compound looking bow, black, and it matches the hood that I gave him. Not really a fan of these black hoods, but I mean, I wanted to throw at least one black hood on him since it would match the bow, and I think it does an okay job. I really like what came on the Beastmaster for a hood, and I gave him a quiver since he is a bowman. Obviously none of the other bowmen have quivers, but I wanted to make sure that I at least gave one of them a quiver just to break it up quite a bit. And it kind of is a little bit separated from his back just because I gave him that belt, carrying tool belt as well, which is probably an illegal technique, but it came together pretty nicely and kind of made it pretty unique for another archery bowman. Next, I always make some sort of woman that is like technically like a princess or a queen, and I gave her the black bandana shoulder armor with a katana, as well as, this is from Ninjago. You could say that it's a dragon, but I'm gonna say that it's a wolf, just for the Wolfpack, like it's wearing a golden wolf honor, a skull on her shoulder. I think that is pretty cool, and I was able to find a different colored tool belt just to break up what the other brown ones were that everyone was using. And obviously the katana in her back looks quite nice when you're looking at it like this. And lastly, we have the leader of the Wolfpack. This is the leader of the Wolfpack. Obviously, I always want to make a distinguished leader because the leader is going to be older, more elderly, wiser person. And for the Wolfpack, this is what I came up with. Gray on the headpiece, and then obviously a white beard and hair. And then gave him some brown shoulder pads that I believe also came in the Viking village. And then for his weapon, I always give the leader of all my castle factions a unique weapon of some sort to like be the weapon that is passed down through the generations to all the leaders of the factions of some sort. And I came up with this design for a gold toothed, I guess you could call it black teeth or black horns with a gold handle, and it could either be used as a dagger, it can be used as a sword of some kind, but I think it looks quite cool when they're like holding it. Like you could obviously use it to stab or do any, like protect himself, guard stuff, I don't know, do anything. But I think it looks really cool for the Wolfpack, giving it those teeth or horns, whatever you want to call them. Kind of just ties into the animal nature vibe of the Wolfpack and how they live their life out in the wilderness. So that was my Lego Castle Wolfpack army build. Let me know what yours is in the comments below. I'm going to get on out of here, so I will see you in the next video.